Well, howdy there, intentional streaming fans. We have my co-host Jarvis
What's up, everybody?
and myself Flip. And we are going right into our brand new format where we're going to focus on more of the NFL side and the fantasy football side, and we've gotten out of doing everything just for one of our fantasy football leagues. So if you guys were hoping to hear about our league, you'll just have to listen to one of our reruns.
Hey, they've got a lot of replay value.
Yes. Lots of hours and hours of entertainment, especially last week's debacle, should I say?
Yes, that's a great word.
Okay, good. Yeah, because it was rough. So if you guys want to get a good chuckle, listen to last week's version. We were very ill prepared and
It showed.
Yeah. So going to the new format, what we're doing is in the off season, we're going to be mixing NFL news along with what little fantasy football news is going to be out there. We'll probably have more dedicated shows to certain aspects as far as the NFL rookie class that's going to be coming in. Plus, we'll also be getting into some of the DFS stuff, that side of it. Maybe even some different league concepts as well. So, do you have anything to add there, Mr. Jarvis?
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be different than what we are used to. I think we're both excited to transition into a different format, one that could appeal to a broader audience. Right now, playoffs are still going on. Not a lot of movement as far as teams go, but right now, what we're seeing is we're starting to enter that coaching carousel, so to speak. So we've got a lot of news that we're going to be covering about all the different coaching changes around the league, who's going where, what that means, what to look for, things like that. So that's kind of what we're going to be covering mostly during this week, and then moving forward, beyond the playoffs and after the Super Bowl is when we start getting into, okay, well, the draft is coming up, the combine's coming up, who's coming out, where do we think these people are going, who are our top guys, best landing spots for these rookies, that type of thing. So, we're no longer focusing just, specifically on our league, but we're going into more of a format that I'm particularly super excited to jump into.
I am very excited as well. It's definitely going to be a lot of fun. It's definitely a new chapter in Jarvis and I doing our weekly Wednesday podcasts. So time will tell on how we're going to actually, fare on this. Are we gonna swim or sink, Jarvis?
Well, I guess that it needs to be. That's just one of those things that's wait to be seen. But I don't know. I think I'm optimistic. I'm openly optimistic
Until we start blundering, and then mirror.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So enough of the fun little intro there. Let's hop right into things. Bruce Arians goes to Tampa Bay. The funny thing with Bruce Arians here is when he retired in 2017, he was still under contract with the Cardinals. So the Bucs actually had to give the Cardinals a 7th-round draft pick.
Yeah, and they kind of slid that in there. I don't think that made a lot of the headlines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's put yourself in the shoes of an Arizona Cardinals fan. Flip, are you upset at all about this?
With Arians was an old OC from the Steelers, and I was one that actually liked Bruce Arians. I really did. My Steeler brethren might not like him as much as I did. He had issues with Big Ben, but Big Ben has issues with other offensive coordinators too. It's going to be very interesting to see. Now, one thing he's going to give up his play calling duties, which I found a little strange because he'd been the head coach for the Cardinals since 2013 to 2017, and I believe he called his plays the entire time. And in that time, he was 49-30-1 for his record, but 1-2 in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
This is a well-established coach.
And they loved him in Arizona.
Yeah.
Loved him. Not only the fan base and Cardinal Nation, but the team. You just heard glowing remarks across the board from the players on this team. They loved him. So when he retired, he was still, like you said, he's still technically under contract. And I think that like shortly after he retired, and there was talk about maybe him coming out of retirement, I do remember him saying that the only team that he would come back out of retirement for was to coach the Cleveland Browns. I don't know if you know that or not, or if you remember hearing that.
I did hear that.
So when that obviously didn't happen, and then he goes to Tampa Bay, like I think it probably rubbed a lot of Cardinal fans wrong that, when you're retiring, and you're given all of the pomp and circumstance and all the farewell partying gifts and all the love and the attention, and then you come out of retirement, so to speak, and then you go to a different team. I feel that was kind of a shady move that could be looked at negatively from a lot of Cardinal fans.
Well, I get that. Was he retiring just to get out of
That's
Arizona?
The question. I think that's the question is, he saw what was coming in, the state of the team, because right now the Cardinals, top to bottom, not a good team.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely one of the worst teams in the NFL. And him going to Tampa Bay, that puts him in a pretty good spot. The question is, will he retain
Winston?
I
think he does.
I think he does too.
And I think this has a lot of, positive impacts on Jameis Winston. Not necessarily just specifically on the field in terms of fantasy value, but just mentally and the way that he approaches the game, his overall attitude. I think that Arians is a guy that can get through to this dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, you look at when he was the OC from Pittsburgh from 2007 to 2011, and got a ring with them in that period. And, this was not long after Big Ben had a tumultuous time in Pittsburgh. So when he had a lot of his off-the-field stuff going on. So I think he could definitely be a solid mentor for Winston, and he's fine with the big chances. He's fine with the fast-paced, high-octane offenses,
which Tampa has.
Yeah, where he's going to be fine with Winston turning the ball over. Is he going to be fine with Winston turning the ball over at a very high rate? We'll see. But it's definitely a get hired. He is 66. Not a spring chicken, but there's a lot of coaches in the league older than him.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, I mean, look at Pete Carroll. Isn't he the oldest? Isn't he in his 70s, like mid to late 70s?
Probably so. And I'm not too sure.
I will vet that right now, actually.
While you're doing that, let's take a look at. So he's assembling a nice coaching staff here. He brings in Todd Bowles as his defensive coordinator. He was with the Cardinals 2013 to 2014. And then in 2015, he was selected as AP Assistant of the Year.
Wow.
For the 2014 season. Then 2015, he went to the head coach of the Jets and spent 3 years there, going 24-40. But he's a very well-respected DC. He just failed as a head coach.
Yeah, and you see that from time to time. I mean, honestly, coming from a Denver Bronco fan myself, we just got rid of a defensive-minded Vance Joseph, who was a good defensive coordinator, just kind of failed as a coach.
Yes.
So I do like the landing spot there. I really, really like the landing spot down there. in Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay's been a defense that has been known to, okay, so fantasy implications, especially like daily fantasy, you kind of want to target your players that are going up against that Tampa Bay Bucks defense. And maybe he's the guy that comes in and kind of helps turn that around a little bit.
What do you think of the hire for their OC? You want to expand on that?
So Byron Leftwich, he was the OC in Arizona, took over midway through the season. Thought he did a fine job. I thought he did a really good job getting David Johnson back involved. I mean, you got a guy like David Johnson who spent the first half of the season under a different offensive coordinator, wasn't getting involved at all. Like, he wasn't getting targets. He was getting like maybe 1 or 2 targets a game. Byron Leftwich comes in, takes over, and now you see those target shares going up. So you have a Bruce Arians guy, head coach, coming in, bringing Byron Leftwich, both offensive-minded, coming in. I think what this does, you got to start looking at, Tampa Bay Bucks running backs. You got Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones. Now, I know Ronald Jones is not a guy who so far has been known to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. So what do they do in the draft? I don't know. Maybe they go after somebody who's more of a pass catcher. Peyton Barber, what does that do? I think that if you can get the solidified number 1 running back in Tampa Bay, I think that if it is a Peyton Barber or Ronald Jones, I think that you're going to see a big uptick in their production simply because you're bringing in offensive-minded Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians coming in. They're going to be getting them the ball quite a bit. I like the outlook there.
Yeah, I do too. I could really almost see them moving on from Jones, even though he was a 2018 second rounder.
I completely agree.
And some of us older fantasy football players, fantasy football guys probably had Byron Leftwich on their team back in 2003 or 2004.
Yeah.
And then they probably drafted him in 2005 and missed the playoffs that year when he was bad.
Mm-hmm.
But, the thing with Leftwich is he does not have a lot of experience. He did come in 2016 with the Cardinals as a coaching intern. He was then hired as the Cardinals quarterbacks coach in 2017. So he does not have a lot of play calling experience or OC experience. And, Arians has already come out and said that Leftwich is going to be making the calls. So that's going to be an interesting team. It really will. Because back in the Steelers days, they used a lot of Heath Miller.
Yeah.
So, and, you got 2 great move tight ends down in Tampa Bay with O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate. No doubt this is going to make Mike Evans very, very happy.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm really excited about the moves that they've made, the coaching staff. Now we'll see if they can put it all together, but things are definitely looking up and up for the Bucks.
They also brought in Harold Goodwin as their run game coordinator. These kind of specialized coordinators are more and more prevalent in the NFL. And basically what these coordinators' jobs do is they're getting these positions and organize the players into certain packages. And he's been with Arians since back in the Pittsburgh days.
And see, I didn't know anything about that guy. So
and being a Steelers fan, I don't remember this guy. Steeler Nation is probably hating on me right now, and I'll probably get some dislikes on that.
But hey, so it goes.
So it goes. You want to go over the...
Yeah, so with Bruce Arians going out, that means a new guy has to come in. Flip, that new guy, Cliff Kingsbury.
There's a household name, isn't it?
Right? I do remember this guy, though, from back in his college football days at A&M, This guy, he was a very, very... he was he was such a good quarterback, very pass-happy offense. He's very quarterback-minded coach. So, Coach Johnny Football, Texas A&M, when he won his Heisman in 2012, And that's when the Aggies led the Southeastern Conference in rushing, passing, total scoring, offense, and the nation's only offensive ranked in the top 15 in NCAA statistics in all 4 categories.
That's pretty impressive right there.
Very impressive. You know, when he was the Texas Tech head coach, excuse me, in 2013 to 2018 with a record of 35-40, which not bad, you know, considering, you know, the program. They're not like a powerhouse or anything like that, but they've always been offensive, like an offensive juggernaut, traditionally anyway. But you know, he was a key offensive coordinator at USC, and
I don't think that was for very long though. I think it was only for like a month.
Yeah, and I know that USC had high hopes for him, so initially they were blocking a lot of NFL teams from interviewing him. And I don't know what happened with that as far as like, you know, them, you know, lifting that block, but it wasn't long, and he was tagged head coach Arizona, and I think and from what I'm hearing, they're very, very excited about that.
It was just a really strange thing at USC, and I really haven't read too much on that, and I don't know why he was there for a month. I mean, I don't know. So it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of a staff he gets around him. You know, this is a guy with no NFL experience. And absolutely, well, a good offensive mind, or at least a good offensive college mind to him. But can that translate to the NFL?
I think it can. He's coming from a position as a quarterback, and you're there to develop a young quarterback. You know, I think what this is that the Cardinals, now I could be completely wrong, but I think what the Cardinals are trying to do here is they're like, okay, we had a very down and disappointing year with Rosen, and he's not quite there mentally. He's kind of shaken up, had a poor year. You know, we're moving on from our coaching staff. We're going to rebuild. Let's get a quarterback savvy head coach that can relate to this young guy to salvage our number 2 overall pick.
Boy, I don't know. I'm having a tough time
buying.
Or a
first-round pick, I'm sorry.
I'm just having a tough time buying. Okay, first off, I don't buy into Rosen. I'm not a big Rosen fan to begin with.
I kind of like him. I thought, you know, he's passing the eye test in a lot of different aspects of the game.
But that was in college. But he also turned the ball over a large amount.
He did
in college, and he. You know, he struggled in the NFL. His rookie year. So they got a good defense to work with down there. That's what's going to help. Now
that's the key. That's the key in this whole thing, because like I was telling you earlier, Kingsbury is going to come in. He's not defensive minded whatsoever. His whole entire focus is going to be on the offensive side. So it's vitally important to this Arizona Cardinals to come in, find the right guy, find a good defensive coordinator to lead this young defensive team, because they've got a lot of talent there and they've got a lot of promise. If they can do that, Kingsbury focuses all of his attention on the offensive side, we could see an improvement here. And I'm not going to sit here and pound the table for Rosen saying he's going to be a top 10, top 15 quarterback. I don't believe that. But I do see some promise in him. And I think that given him a couple years in the right situation, I think he could make a giant leap forward.
Now, we'll see what kind of impact he has on David Johnson there. Is he going to see a massive uptick in receptions like he did, what was that, 3 years ago?
Mm-hmm. And I think all the fantasy football owners out there that have David Johnson, that's the big one. There's not a lot of people out there like, you know, sweating it out, being like, I need Rosen this year to get up to that top 10 level, and that'll really put me over the edge. No. People are going to be relying heavily on that David Johnson production that they saw 2 years ago.
Absolutely. Let's hop into the Browns.
Woo!
You know, I said this from the beginning of this year, that the Browns were going to be a lot better. And I actually bet money on it, and I enjoyed cashing in my winnings from that as well. But, you know, halfway through the year, they got rid of Hugh Jackson, which he was really a burden on the team. and they just hired Freddie Kitchens, which, from the outside, this is not a sexy hire. But when you break it down a little bit, he broke into coaching with Dallas in 2008. He was also on the Cardinal staff from 2007 to 2017. So he's got experience with Arians, and coming off that Arians coaching tree. And so this year he was the running backs coach until Todd Haley was fired, and he took over for the OC duties and turned around the team's offense. Baker Mayfield flourished underneath his offense.
Mm-hmm.
Went from a stagnant offense, and I think they went 5-2, and they easily could have went 6-1, and they had a very legit shot to beat Baltimore week 17. And that team is definitely they're in clearing out coach mode right now. They just got rid of their entire coaching staff today, so they're going to have to start building from scratch. And that included getting rid of Greg Williams, a very good defensive coordinator.
So here's my thoughts on that. And I wasn't surprised at all to see that, Freddie Kitchens was hired as the head coach. So let me ask you this. Who's the leader on the Cleveland Browns team? Who's the leader?
Offensively?
Yeah.
Oh, Baker Mayfield.
Absolutely. So the team rallies around him. That once he came in and took over that job, like you just saw everybody like kind of just like start to the Baker Mayfield buy-in. Like they were all in. They were like, okay, this guy's got it. We're going to follow this dude, right? Baker Mayfield loves Freddie Kitchens. Loves him. So Baker Mayfield is 100% bought in. I think that directly correlates with the rest of the team buying in. So I think Freddie Kitchens already right now has won over the locker room.
Well, and the big thing, you look at that team offensively, fantasy football-wise, you got Nick Chubb, a rookie, Baker Mayfield, a rookie, and Antonio Callaway, a rookie, who's got issues, but we'll see how he progresses. Jarvis Landry is, a lot of people might think Jarvis Landry's old, but I think he's only, 26?
He's 26.
And that guy's put up how many 1,000-yard seasons,
He's top 10 in targets, for the third or fourth consecutive year. Never missed a game.
That's surprising coming from a slot guy that, runs out of that linebacker traffic.
So I'm excited to see what Jarvis Landry does, next year. I think there's a lot of potential there being the solidified number one. I don't know if they're going to go out and bring in somebody else. They had a lot of production between Higgins and Callaway. They took a flyer on Callaway, just because of all the off-field issues. They got a steal on him in the draft, and he's got a lot of potential. So,
they were pulling out their hair early on when
sure were.
When he got suspended, and then the whole lying thing, and that was all on the Hard Knocks, which was pretty interesting to actually watch.
Yeah, but when you look at this, they've got.
Well, look at Njoku.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say. When you look at all aspects of this offensive side of the Cleveland Browns, you got a really good offensive line. You've got a young, charismatic, quarterback who's got that edge to him that everybody's buying into. You got the wide receiver core who's overproduced for given where they were taken, but you got Jarvis Landry solidified number one. You got David Njoku, who is a beast at the tight end position. You got your running game with Nick Chubb, and Duke Johnson. There's a lot of promise there.
And that's one thing I read. I'm a big Pro Football Focus fan, and Pro Football Focus, I believe, had the offensive line second as the best offensive line in the league this past year. And, that's pretty surprising considering their left tackle wasn't all that good, after losing Joe Thomas when he retired. But they really came alive as a unit under Kitchens. And it's, as a Steeler fan, yeah, I'm a little nervous. The big thing that's going to happen is what are they going to do for the DC coming in?
Mm-hmm.
You know, losing an excellent DC and Greg Williams, that's going to hurt that unit. And that unit is kind of it's young. They've thrown in free agents to try to solidify, and they actually did fairly well, especially down the stretch once Kitchens once actually Greg Williams took over as the head coach. You know, that unit did very well. So that offense is only going to flourish as much as they can get the ball. If that defense goes back to being a dumpster fire, and then they're not seeing the ball as often, you know, that could definitely hurt the production.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of staff he brings in and builds around him. But again, excited about the potential there in Cleveland.
Absolutely. Well, excitement for Cleveland fans.
Fantasy purposes only here, right?
Yeah, not Steeler fans. We're not excited about them one bit. We'd rather have them go back to the 1 in 15 days. We're okay with that.
It's much easier back then.
Yeah, definitely so. No more crappy 21-21 ties. Or was it 24? I don't even care.
It doesn't matter.
It cost us the playoffs either way. So, the Packers. You want to talk about the the Packers' new head coach?
Yeah, so Packers brought in and hired Titans offensive coordinator Matt LaFleur as their new head coach. You know, he was with the Houston Texans from 2008 to 2010 with Kyle Shanahan. Spent a little time in Washington under Mike and both Kyle Shanahan. 2012 oversaw Cousins and RG3 as their quarterback coach, so he's got some experience there. 2015 went with Kyle Shanahan to be the QB coach with Atlanta. 2016, Matt Ryan was the league MVP. So again, we're seeing some good things coming from under his leadership there. 2017, offensive coordinator under Sean McVay with the Rams, but he didn't call the plays though. And then in 2018 was with the Titans as the OC, and he did in fact call the plays. So when I first saw this come across the ticker, I was kind of giggling to myself. And I know that I had mentioned that to you, and you're like, well, don't be so quick to laugh.
Yeah, I'd done my homework on LaFleur, and because I didn't know much about him. Yeah, I didn't know what kind of experience he had. And that's why I was like, whoa, Jarvis, step back a little bit. He comes from that Shanahan coaching tree, both the Shanahan coaching trees, you know. So he does have very good pedigree that he's learned from. You know, how much did he learn from the offensive mind of Sean McVay in the year that he spent with him with the Rams? And he rolls into a Packers team that, you got arguably one of the best quarterbacks in Aaron Rodgers there. You know, not to mention, Aaron Jones. You got a great wide receiver in
Devonta Adams.
I was drawing a blank. Thank you. They got pieces there.
Yeah, they sure do, and we'll see what happens with their tight end position. I mean,
absolutely.
What's going to happen? Is Jimmy Graham going to come back? Are they going to go out and make, a move to bring in somebody else there?
Well, if they keep Jimmy Graham, are they going to ignore him for another year?
That's exactly it. So when a lot of people got excited about Jimmy Graham going to, Green Bay to play with Aaron Rodgers, I myself 2 years ago got super excited about having Martellus Bennett, coming over from the Patriots to go spend some time with Aaron Rodgers. Like, oh yeah. Yep. And at that point, I did a little research and I realized Packers don't throw to the tight end that much.
Well, they used to. They had Bubba Franks. I'm drawing a blank on the guy before Bubba that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, Aaron Rodgers, so back then, Aaron Rodgers loved to throw to his tight end. Was it the coaching staff, or did he kind of decide, okay, I'm sick of throwing to tight ends. I don't want to throw to tight ends. So surely that's not it, is it?
Well, part of me is wondering if maybe it's the fact that Aaron Rodgers kind of came into his own. Like, when he first came in to the league, young, inexperienced quarterbacks, I've always thought their best friends were running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield, tight ends, and slot receivers. Those quick intermediate passes over the middle, little outs, little dump passes, But as Aaron Rodgers kind of came into his own and realized that he was probably one of the best quarterbacks on the planet Earth, he was extending plays. He was running outside the pocket. He was extending plays out, and he was able to throw on the run further and further down the field and make those accurate passes. So I'm wondering if maybe that has anything to do with the lack of production coming from the tight end position, and you're going to see those wide receivers get bumped up more and more and more.
Well, my only issue with that is there's one little combo in the NFL that kind of flies in the face of that, and that's Tom Brady and Gronk, because Gronk is Gronk. But we've seen Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham can put up the year before he put up 10 touchdowns in Seattle. Mm-hmm. He can put up the production.
No, but
I know you're talking more of like a security blanket for younger quarterbacks, and I totally understand that.
But we all can admit that Aaron Rodgers' scrambling ability is a little bit better than Tom Brady's right now.
Oh, come on. Now you're just being silly.
And I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of as to maybe why all of a sudden the lack of production at the tight end position. Now, I mean, granted, there's, Graham has had some good games, from time to time, but it's just not, like you said, a security blanket for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he needs that. I think that he has the ability to see the whole field, stretch the ball down the field, and put that ball wherever he wants. So if he's going to see that open receiver down the field, maybe his check downs kind of get overlooked a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Why they weren't using Jimmy Graham down the seam like they do Gronk or Kelsey.
Yeah. And maybe it's just the offensive coordinator scheme. Maybe it's as simple as that.
Now, and so you got to think with LaFleur coming from, the Washington days where both Kyle and Mike Shanahan have used a lot of tight ends in the past. He did not have Delaney Walker in 2018. I think, did he get hurt in preseason, or was that like really early?
It was really early.
Okay. I couldn't remember exactly when that was. 2017 under McVay, they didn't really, they had Gerald Everett, but he was a rookie, so they didn't really use him a whole lot then.
Yeah, and McVay doesn't use the tight end at all now anyway either.
So we'll see. We'll see how much he gets back to his Shanahan roots with the tight end, and if Jimmy Graham's even still there.
Yeah, I think they move on from him.
Yes,
unless his contract says otherwise. But
did you want to skip the Broncos here?
Absolutely not. Let's talk about the best coaching hiring.
Yep. If
so far.
If you folks want to go, if you want to skip forward, if you're not listening live, if you want to go get a soda, whatever, you can bypass the whole Denver Homer fan that's gonna take this over.
Oh, you stop it! So the reason I'm so excited, and I mean, come on, we just got Denver Broncos. So I apologize. I shouldn't say we. Denver Broncos, I'm a big Broncos fan, for all of you that don't know. Denver Broncos hires Bears defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. Flip, immediate thoughts?
No, it's just John Fox Jr.
Oh, stop. This is different, much different. So Vic started his coaching career in the NFL in 1986. So he's been in the game for quite a while. He's had a large number of stints around the league. 2011, he was the defensive coordinator for Stanford under Jim Harbaugh, and followed him to San Francisco. League high 35 turnovers in 2011. 2015 became the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. Bears D that year was ranked 14th before he took over the juggernaut to the season. Under Fangio, the 2018 Bears excelled as it led the NFL in turnovers, forced turnovers 36 and had 27 interceptions. Chicago was also ranked third in total defense, second in yards per play allowed, and first in scoring defense. This guy is a defensive-minded beast, has been in the league long enough to have earned a starting head coaching position, and we just stole him from Chicago. And I'm super excited about that because defensive-minded coach, we got Von Miller, we got Bradley Chubb, we got a young defense, we got some guys there that are hungry and ready to win, and I think this guy could be the one to come in and help turn things around.
I agree. And I just actually looked up his age because I didn't write it down. This is something crazy. So he's been in the league, 32 years?
Yeah.
He's 60 years old.
Oh, so, man, he was a young pup when he got in.
Yeah, so he was 28 when he started rolling around as a coach in the NFL. You know, he was I believe he broke in with New Orleans. I did not write it down, but he was a linebackers coach on and off for a number of teams between that 86 and 2011. You know, how's Denver going to get back to being the dominant defense, you know, that they were just a few years ago? You know, they got some pieces there. You know, they have, you know, all-world Von Miller. And they have the Bradley Chubb, you know, that they drafted first round, top 10 pick last year. You know, they have some pieces. They lost Harris, their slot corner this year, broke his
injury,
leg.
yeah.
You know, and that really, really helped derail their season down the stretch. So he's going to have some work to do getting that pass defense, you know, the secondary propped up.
Yeah, and I mean, if there's anybody that can do it, I think it's going to be him. I mean, Chicago Bears defense, let's face it, was great, but it wasn't solely from the fact that they brought in Khalil Mack. I mean, they were really good before that.
Yes.
And that just added a different element. The thing that the Chicago Bears defense does really, really well is that front line gets through and into the quarterback's face quick. And the defensive backs are just ball hawks. So I'm hoping that we can bring in that type of system into Denver and utilize the pieces that we have and the tools that we have to kind of mimic and bring over a Chicago Bears 2.0 defense, because if we could do that, that would be a huge, huge step in the right direction. And I tell you what, another thing that makes this hire so great is what's the defensive-minded coach's best friend? A great offensive coordinator. Broncos bring in Gary Kubiak. Bring him back as the offensive coordinator. This made my day seeing that.
Oh, I'm not a Donkeys fan. You know, you can tell by my phrase of donkeys. But, you know, Gary Kubiak is an awesome offensive-minded offensive coordinator. That's fantastic. You know, fantastic for the Broncos. I didn't use the derogatory term. So, but no, it's a great hire for Denver. It really is. Well, not hire. They kind of promoted him.
Right, yeah, they brought him down from the front office. You know, he's spent, the last year or so away from the coaching aspect just due to some health reasons. So I'm really hoping that he continues to be healthy going forward and none of this, his issues with his health and his heart and everything like that resurface. But if everything goes fine, wow, this is going to be, this is a home run. This is a home run for us.
And, you get back to, Kubiak's resume. Broke in with San Fran in 94 and coached Steve Young to a Super Bowl. 95 to 2005, he was the OC with Mike Shanahan in Denver. Won a pair of Super Bowls there. Head coach of the Texans. 61 and 64 record from 2006 to 2014. This is a guy with a lot of experience, a lot of accolades, a lot of success. So you got a solid offensive-minded coach. Now you throw in, defensive-minded coach. Now you throw in a solid, proven offensive mind onto that team. And really, what are they lacking? A quarterback. Now, Can Case Keenum turn it around? Are they going to stick with Case Keenum, Jarvis?
I I think we move on from him. I do. I think maybe he's got, and I'm not necessarily saying this year, like Keenum won't be the quarterback this year. I think he, unless we go out and make like an extreme splash, I still see Keenum coming back, playing his last year of his 2-year contract under Denver. But Denver has the 10th overall pick this year in the NFL draft.
In a very weak quarterback class, though.
Exactly. So we're going to have to, if we're going to want to get up there and get a really good quarterback, we're going to have to be super aggressive. So we were talking about this a little bit. We're kind of joking about it. But, hey, the 49ers have the 2nd overall pick. The number 1 overall pick goes to the Arizona Cardinals. They're not going to be in any rush to get a quarterback, and neither is San Francisco 49ers. With the 10th overall pick, the Denver Broncos could, we could potentially see, and I'm hoping to see some sort of trade up from the 10th to the 2nd with the 49ers. That way we can grab that Haskins kid out of Ohio State and kind of groom him and see what we got there. But
It's a lot of draft capital to move up.
It sure is. But I think that since Peyton Manning has left, we've tried and tried and tried grabbing free agents, grinding a quarterback off free agent, and not getting super aggressive going after anybody. I think there's actually a lot of fire that's starting to burn under John Elway's seat. I think he's starting to get on the hot seat there in Denver, and I think people have gotten over the fact that Elway's sort of godlike status in Denver, and he's infallible and he can't make any mistakes. People are starting to see through that now, and I think that he's actually starting to get on the hot seat, and I think he's going to need to make an aggressive move to get a franchise quarterback. Yeah. And I don't see us going after and trying to grab a Nick Foles or someone like that that's going to get us by for another couple of years. I hope that's not the case. I would be all about it because we've got a lot of pieces in this team that if we can get the right quarterback.
Definitely, the young running back, the young wide receiver core. Will Sanders be back? Will he be back healthy? That's a big question mark. If Sanders doesn't come back, that's a very young and inexperienced unit that
it sure is.
Would need some kind of veteran leadership, and that's the veteran leadership that would come from Kubiak there.
Absolutely. And when you look at the team overall, I mean, Sanders is the veteran of the whole entire positional players that you'd look towards, getting some stuff out of fantasy and disregarding the offensive line. But running backs, Phillip Lindsay, Royce Freeman, 2 rookies. Now, going into this year, let's just say that Emmanuel Sanders is not going to be back. Cortland Sutton, Deshaun Hamilton, both rookies again that were drafted last year. So your 4 big-name offensive guys. Oh, yeah, and then not even, then Jake Butt, who was drafted 2 years ago.
Oh, you got to stop with him. That guy is a tortoise. He's got good hands, but he's a tortoise.
Your 2 of your starting wide receivers, 1-year experience. Both of your running backs, 1-year experience. Now, I mean, they got Devonta Booker. We'll see what his role is. I expect a step up from Royce Freeman this year. We'll see what happens with Phillip Lindsay. Man, that guy produced this year.
He was awesome.
He was amazing. Mm-hmm. So we don't have that solidified veteran offensive weapon in the clubhouse unless Emmanuel Sanders stays. And if he's gone, then you're right. We need some veteran leadership from somebody, and that absolutely will come from Gary Kubiak.
Well, and the problem is you're actually veteran on the field is a journeyman quarterback with 1 solid year in Minnesota, and that's it. I don't know what they're going to do. I wouldn't be surprised. Well, in a weak draft class, if they don't grab Haskins, I think you have the kid out of Missouri, and there's definitely a few more in the mix just because NFL teams are so desperate for quarterbacks. But everybody's saying how weak this class is compared to, previous years. Last year I thought was an equally, weak class. So, we'll see what happens. That's going to be fun getting into when we get into more of the draft stuff, in the next, well, whenever we get to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Another move for the week was Kevin Stefanitsky.
Oh, I thought you were going to follow that up with another move with for the weak Vikings offensive side.
Yeah, but I'm Stefanitsky.
Stefanski.
Oh, there is no I in there. Okay, Stefanski. I should have practiced. My bad. He actually he was the interim. Boy. Okay.
All right, we're gonna hold you after this for some practice reps.
We actually made a fairly decent amount of the show not having a big blunder, and of course it's me.
No.
I'll throw that on my back. I'll carry it. So this guy, okay, Kevin Stefanski, stays put as the full-time Vikings offensive coordinator. He should stick with a heavy run offense that was installed kind of at Mike Zimmer's directing last year when he took over. He'd been with the Vikings since 2006. He was the Vikings 2017 quarterback coach. And then he took over the last 3 games last year when they moved on from their OC, and he went 2-1. He's got definitely one of the better young running backs in Dalvin Cook in the NFL.
Yep.
But can they get that offensive line back to where it was, 2 years ago? It was definitely an underachiever line from the year before. And he's got arguably one of the best wide receiver tandems in the league with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen.
Let me ask you this. As an offensive coordinator, okay, let's say you're an offensive coordinator. Does it make your job harder having that many good and dynamic offensive weapons on your team, or would you rather have like maybe 1 or 2 so you could kind of gear your offense?
No, because out of those, we mentioned the 2 wide receivers, but we totally ignored Kyle Rudolph. Who was the year before was a top 4 fantasy tight end,
and that was before the emergence of Adam Thielen. Stephon Diggs was he had just kind of come in, but at the time, who was their main wide receiver weapon, 4 short years ago?
Cordero Patterson?
He was there.
He was there, but he definitely was not.
Why am I not thinking about it? Oh my goodness.
They had
well, either way. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you could gear your offense around like maybe 1 or 2 players. Or because the when you look at the Vikings offense, like their as far as their play calling, it's very balanced because you have home run hitters in the backfield and on the outsides. And Rudolph's production has kind of gone down a little bit because
it dropped significantly this
year. They can rely on moving the ball on the outside through the slot and through the running game.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's where it's kind of tough to count on, I guess, a Rudolph. But will Zimmer say to him, "I want you to run the run heavy attack that you did at the end of last year"? Is he going to kind of dictate that? That's going to be interesting to see. We'll see maybe early on in the year, but that's a little too late if you're actually targeting one of the wide receivers, or if you're actually drafting Dalvin Cook maybe around too early. If they have to be like almost every other team in the NFL and throw 60% of the time. So that's going to be an interesting situation on how he actually pans out. He's been with the organization for so long. So, this breaking news earlier with the Jets, Jarvis.
Yeah, we were discussing this just a little bit ago before the show, and then right before lunch, got on and logged on and found out that the New York Jets hired my former Miami Dolphins head coach Adam Gase. Flip.
Yeah,
I know you're not super high on this.
This is kind of a typical hire for gangrene here. I'm not a big Adam Gase fan. Gase does come off the Mike Martz coaching tree when he was with San Fran. Gase was the offensive coordinator for the Broncos.
That's why I have a soft spot for him.
Yeah,
he gave me a very special memory. Back in 2013. When the Broncos broke the Patriot scoring record for the single season. So that was really cool, scoring a high of 606 points. That was pretty cool for me. So a little soft spot for Adam Gase, I'd say. Yeah.
He spent a season as the Bears OC in 2015. 2016, he was the head coach of the Dolphins, 23-25. Record in those 3 years. In those 3 years, he also went through horrible usage of Lamar Miller. He jettisoned Jay Ajayi for peanuts.
There's got to be something in that water down there where they're just like, you start drinking it and you're like, we do not use running backs.
No,
we do not use running backs down here.
They also got rid of Jarvis Landry instead of giving him a contract. Now, how much was that on him? How much was that on the GM down there? I guess Dolphins fans would know more than I would. But it was a pretty dysfunctional team for the talent they had. They brought in. They had Sue at one point. They had Cameron Wake. They had all this defense. They had Tannehill struggling as their quarterback when he was actually healthy. We're offline. We dropped internet.
See, it's been saying that for a while. But
are you shitting me?
But I thought it had come on and...
Oh, crap. I wonder how much we lost. You know how long that's been there?
I thought that... Oh, let's see here.
Oh, wait, no.
We're
live, I think.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's showing us offline. I apologize.
There it is. There's the hiccup.
Yeah. My internet's been just a little funky. So
good thing we caught that, and I logged on and checked and see, because Flip was about 10 seconds away from turning this PG version into an R-rated podcast.
Yeah, it was not going to end at R, let me tell you. There was going to be definitely graphic violence and some foul
rated M for mature
foul language happening. So hopefully you guys didn't miss me spouting off and bashing Adam Gase. Hopefully you got the full effect of that. With Mike McCarthy out there and young coaches like Eric Bieniemy, the OC of the Chiefs, I don't get the retread on Adam Gase. He had his one good year in Denver.
He rose to stardom pretty quickly.
Well,
he became a big name fast, and I don't know, like, given everything that happened in Miami and the predictions that they were, maybe going to win 2-3 games this year, and they won like 7, something like that. Maybe that's
they
what
played Buffalo twice in the year, right?
Yeah, but Buffalo plays hard, especially at home.
They played the Jets with Darnold twice this year.
But they beat Miami. Or not Miami. My goodness. Sorry. New England.
I think they shut out New England or came really close. No,
that was a miracle in Miami.
No, they won that fluke play.
Yes.
The Drake the Drake lateral to him where the four New England guys decided, no, we don't want to tackle him.
And that's another guy. Like we were just talking about how they don't know how to use and utilize their running backs properly. What happened to Kenyon Drake this year?
Well, he doomed my fantasy team, let me tell you.
My goodness.
So, I have McGuire sitting on my dynasty bench. And this was
I like him.
This was like one of the worst things that could have happened to him that Adam Gase goes there. Or maybe it's one of the best things because they'll bring in some free agent and then he'll end up starting most of the year.
They'll bring in a big name running back and then McGuire will get the majority of the carries.
They bring in Le'Veon Bell and here's McGuire trotting out there week 2 getting 30 carries.
Oh, if Le'Veon Bell goes to the Jets, that's a death blow for Bell. It really is.
Yeah. I think that would I think Bell would seriously have to turn down the money.
Oh, I think he's going to be a Colt. I'm calling it. He's going to be an Indianapolis Colt next year, and if he does, look out.
I don't know about that.
The Colts have $112 million to spend.
But they also have Marlon Mack, who would he just run for 140 yards?
Yeah, but they got, was he like 4th rounder, something like that?
It doesn't matter.
But would you be more invested if you sign Le'Veon Bell? Would you be more intrigued to play him and spend all the money and play him? Would you feel as bad about maybe cutting into Marlon Mack's playing time?
Well, but with the best thing you can do with Bell is basically give him 300 touches a year.
Yes, yeah.
And
if he goes to New England with that offensive line and that play, I think that is the absolute number one best landing spot.
You mean Indy? Nobody in their right mind wants him going to New England.
What, did I say New England?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yes. No. Indy, without a doubt, is the best landing spot for Le'Veon Bell.
Because if Bell went to New England, what would happen then? Tom Brady would win the next 5 Super Bowls and call it good.
All he'd have to do is turn around and hand it off and dump passes.
Yeah, throw to Gronk, that's just a nightmare thinking about it.
That was a complete mishap on my end. I did not mean to say New England.
I'm about ready to cry just thinking about that. That'd just be awful.
No, if he goes to Indy, goodness,
I just don't see him going to Indy.
Really?
I really don't. I just think after Marlon Mack just ran for 140 yards in the playoffs, why would you want to bring in a running back that's going to cost you $15 million a year?
Because it's Lev Bell.
Yeah, but you still got Marlon Mack. Why spend that much money if you don't have to?
Don't get me wrong. I totally understand your point. And I'm with you.
And, I was a rabid Lev Bell fan. I get it. It was over money, blah, 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 blah. But the promises that he made, I know we're getting off on our weekly tangent here, of course. But, when he made his promises didn't show up, I was pretty upset. With me being a big salary cap guy, I get it. It's business. Other guys have left the Steelers over more or less the same situation, over money. It's what it is. But, I'm still, I quit wearing my Bell jersey. Couldn't do it anymore. Broke out the old, faded, worn out Big Ben jersey. Didn't help, but wherever Bell goes, he is definitely going to be a major upgrade and going to be a sick part of the offense.
Except for the Jets.
Except for the Jets, because Adam Gase will seriously, Adam Gase will have him like run blocking or I don't know what.
What about Tampa Bay?
Yeah, that would be that would definitely be pretty sick. Well, I guess that would depend on Byron Leftwich on his use of him. I'll be really interested to see, and this is definitely a topic for another show, is where does Lev Bell go? I definitely want him to go to the NFC.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I don't want to play him. I don't want a possibility of playing him in the playoffs or God forbid he goes to Baltimore and we play him twice a year.
See, that's another one.
That would be, Steeler fans hate Baltimore as it is. And
a lot of people hate Baltimore.
Yeah. I mean, there would just be another reason to absolutely hate Baltimore. So, okay, let's see if we can get back on track because we're not far away here.
Speaking of Baltimore, John Harbaugh, does he stay?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a smattering of talk about him leaving, but then there's also been the recent talk of getting an extension there.
And I think that's probably more likely.
Now, why, can you explain to me why they did not pull Jackson for Flacco during that game?
Maybe they were pot committed at that point. Like, what's that going to do to Lamar Jackson's confidence, going forward? Like, okay, well, am I or am I not the guy? I agree with you. I think that they should have. But I'm guessing it's all just.
And the announcers were trying to make it a game still and say, "Well, look at this. They've just scored 7. They've made it a game and they're only down by 21, and then or 17, and then they scored another one and whatever it was." So, but Indy was playing prevent. That's all they were doing. Of course, they're going to give up a bunch of yards. They're playing prevent. So,
Lamar Jackson is a quarterback I want on my fantasy team.
You can have him.
He is not a guy I want on my regular NFL fandom team. I would not want him as a Denver Bronco. Nope. I don't think that he's now he could surprise us next year and learn how to throw the ball.
He's too one-dimensional.
He really is. He really is. So he's going to score you some fantasy points just on his legs alone. He'll throw a couple touchdown passes. He'll run for some more. Fantasy-wise, we've seen it before. There's quarterbacks out there. A couple of years ago, Colin Kaepernick was the big thing. Terrible real-life quarterback, great fantasy quarterback. That's Lamar Jackson, and I don't see it changing.
No, I agree. I'm not a Lamar Jackson fan. I'm really not. I think we saw this year what Lamar Jackson is. He's a streaky, questionable passer with turnovers. Is going to run the ball. Can he eventually be a decent scrambling quarterback? Will he be Michael Vick? No.
Well, and it's guys like Deshaun Watson that are sort of to blame for this. You got quarterbacks like that are that dual threat that can get you those extra yards, that are really good at running the ball, but maybe not necessarily throw the ball as well. Now, Deshaun Watson's a lot better thrower, a lot better passer than Lamar Jackson. But when you see the success that Deshaun Watson was having, then you got teams that are kind of desperate. They want to make that splash. They want to find the next big thing. They're willing to take that risk. And I don't see it happening with Lamar. And I could completely be wrong. He could take a step up next year and surprise us all. But I think that we're all kind of on that same mindset that, yeah, you're right. Pretty one-dimensional.
Yeah, definitely so. The last one we'll touch on real quick is Dirk Kuttner going back to the Falcons as their OC. I didn't write a bunch down. I know he spent time back in the day, or not that long ago, with Atlanta as their OC, and Matt Ryan flourished under him. He was just fired from Tampa Bay this year after another poor season with them. Just a couple of quick fantasy notes here at the end. Of course, Jarvis writes this down. Antonio Brown playing his last game in a Steelers uniform.
You want to save that?
Yeah, I'd kind of like to.
We can save that for next week.
Yeah, let's save that let's let that cool down just a little bit. I write for a
Oh, I
website.
think it's still simmering. I think it's burning right now.
Well, that's why I said, let it maybe cool down for a week. I write for a Steelers fan site, Behind the Steel Curtain. There, I give you guys a plug. Hi to all my buddies there. Hi to all the trolls as well. You know who you are. But that's a huge topic there, and there's not a day that goes by that there isn't an article mainly bashing on Antonio, and I don't want to get into that this week. We would be here for another hour.
Yeah, we'll parking lot that. We'll save it for next week. We'll be sure to bring it up because again, that's going to be more than a quick 2-3 minute conversation.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Hunter Henry activated from the pup.
Your boy
for the playoffs, you bet. This is a guy I'm very, 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 very high on. He's sitting on one of my dynasty taxi squads.
And just as a side note, with the Hunter Henry thing, I would like to come out and get ahead of everything and just give a very early thank you to everybody I'm going to be playing in DFS this weekend that are going to roster Hunter Henry because I do not think he's going to do anything in this matchup coming off of that injury. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, oh yeah, they're going to see the glit and the grunt and the glam of Hunter Henry coming back, and they're like, I want to roster him. I'm going to be under the bubble. I want to slide in. I want to be sneaky and throw him in there. Yeah, thank you. By the way, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not.
He's basically gonna. He should be like on a pitch count, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Coming off that knee injury, he may get in there and play 15 to 20 snaps. And he's not going to be doing anything. So
no, I wouldn't think so. Maybe he gets some snaps inside the 10. Maybe he'll snag a lone touchdown. But I don't think you could count on him for any real production.
No, not at all. And he'll be highly owned, in DFS. So, yep, big fade for me this week. But It's good to see him back, activated. Going to be getting some playing time because that guy's a beast and he's got a lot of potential.
7 months after tearing his ACL and he's back.
Yeah, and see, that's another thing that concerns me is like why. I mean, I get it; it's the playoffs and you kind of want to get out there, but to me, it's kind of rushing things, and that's why I'm thinking that he's going to be on a pitch count.
Well, he's just a tad bit of an upgrade on 380,612-year-old Antonio Gates. Anytime I see Gates catching the ball, I'm like, oh boy. I was probably in my 20s when he came into the league, wasn't I?
Yeah.
The last one, here's something interesting Jarvis brought up. Hop on that, Jarvis.
Yeah, so I saw that Thomas Rawls has signed with the Jaguars. And the reason that this is semi-interesting, and who knows, we're still really new into everything, but what does that say about the Jaguars wanting to add running back depth? I know there is a big issue with Leonard Fournette. They revoked and took away all of his guarantees, due to that suspension. And there seems to be a little bit of turmoil within that locker room. And there's some speculation that the Jags could potentially be shopping him. My initial gut feeling tells me he's going to come back for another year. But there's people out there that are saying, yeah, this is major. This is big. Like, they're not happy with one another. Both sides are not happy, and it wouldn't surprise some people who follow this a little bit more in-depthly than I do if he ends up on another team.
I think this is a knee-jerk reaction. I think it's overblown. The suspension, yeah, it was stupid. It really was when he was suspended for the fight. And it is what it is. Heat of the moment type of thing. But I don't think you move on from a pretty decent franchise running back who I'm not sure what he ran for this year because of being hurt. Last year, he was like one of only 5 running backs that ran for over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Like I would be more shocked to see him get traded and move to a different team. I fully expect him to come back. I think that they've invested too much into him, not just on the salary and everything like that and the money wise, but all of like the offensive schemes that they've built and developed around him. He was the centerpiece of that offense. Yeah, he got hurt and he was out in the majority of the year, and it really hurt the Jaguars. But he comes back and he's able to play a full season next year. And now there's going to be some changes down there in Jacksonville. But again, I think the constant would be Leonard Fournette at the center of that offense.
Yeah.
And how could it not be? I mean, who else do they have?
Mm-hmm. Well, T.J. Yeldon, but I believe Yeldon is a free agent, and I'm a huge Yeldon fan. I really am. I really had hopes when I drafted Yeldon in the first round a few years ago when he was a rookie in the other dynasty league, where he was going to be, it was going to be Lev Bell and him on my dynasty team for years to come, and that dream was absolutely smashed. He's a very good third down back.
And I think he made himself some money this year by playing the way that he did.
I think so. And I think a team might actually give him, a look. I think he's a free agent. Don't quote me on that.
I think you're right, though.
But I really think he could go to a team and have a shot that he could go to the Jets and, get screwed over by Adam Gase.
Because let's not forget the fact that the Jaguars also have Carlos Hyde.
Yes, that they traded for.
Yeah.
They didn't give up much for him. Mm-mm. So that was the insurance. And, of course, the Jaguars rarely use Carlos Hyde.
So it's something to think about and keep an eye on because they got Yeldon, Hyde, Fournette. Something's got to give there. Mm-hmm. Someone will be wearing a different uniform next year.
Definitely, something to keep your eye on, in the offseason about how Jacksonville does deal with the running backs. If they keep, if they get rid of Fournette and they're going with Hyde and, who else are they going to have? They're going to draft a running back or are they going to go with Rawls for a backup? Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on there. Definitely some sleeper action.
Absolutely.
So, all right. We got anything else?
Not a lot. Oh, yeah. Hey, hang on.
Uh-oh.
Breaking news.
Uh-oh.
This is a bit of a surprise. San Francisco Chronicle reports 2018 Heisman Trophy winner and 2018 Oakland A's first-round draft pick Kyler Murray will enter the NFL draft.
What?
Whoa.
What is that about?
I did not see that coming.
Well, didn't he already take his signing bonus?
Yeah. So how that all works, I'm not sure. We're going to have to look into that and give you some more info as it develops. But that just came across.
Huh. Okay. Well, here's some other news here.
Oh.
Ex-Packers coach Mike McCarthy will not coach in 2019. Well, there's no head coaching jobs left, so.
Well, yeah, because from my understanding, what I saw come across the ticker the other day was that McCarthy was not considering coaching anywhere other than the New York Jets, and we just found out that they have fulfilled that with the almighty Adam Gase.
Yes. Jeff Darlington reports ex-Dolphins OC Dowell Loggins?
Kenny Loggins, I think, is what.
Kenny Loggins. I actually know who Kenny Loggins is. But he's expected to serve in the same capacity for Adam Gase with the Jets. And here's the little blurb. Yikes! Gase coordinates his own offense, so Loggins is more of an advisor sounding board. Is still an extremely uninspiring move for a Jets team that is going against the offseason's grain of bold coaching hires. Loggins has never been anyone's idea of fun on offense.
Oh, wow.
From Tennessee to Chicago to Miami.
Well, at least they're talking him up.
So I'm just quickly checking. Yeah, there's your Kyle Murray. Boy, that's really surprised. I want to say he got like a $3 or $5 million signing bonus from
Oakland.
That sure hope he hasn't spent much of that, because
He'll be able to pay it back.
but will that guy be a first round pick?
I don't know.
How about if we save that for next week as well?
Yep, we'll have more info on that next week, so tune in for that. But wow, was not expecting to see that. That's for sure.
Interesting. So a lot of flurry, a lot of action at the end of our very first transitioning into the whole fantasy football NFL aspect of our intentional streaming podcast. So I think we had a great show this week. I appreciate all of Jarvis's help as usual.
And I appreciate yours as well. This is a little bit of a non-traditional type show. It's all kind of geared around coaching. So I'm looking forward to getting into a little bit more of the meat and potatoes going forward.
Well, I think our whole podcast is a little non-traditional. If you're looking for a couple of guys like you would listen to on Sirius Radio, no, we're not it.
Yeah, we're not that talented yet, but no, just joking.
Maybe someday they'll pay us, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to Intentional Streaming. Jarvis and I definitely had a blast. We look forward to entertaining and hopefully informing you in the future as well. Any parting comments?
Nah, I'm excited to see what the future holds for this show. I'm excited to be a part of it, and I'm ready to rock.
Yes.
Off season's technically here. We still got some playoff action, so go out there and play some DFS. If you need some help or some advice, feel free to reach out. But yeah, on to bigger and better things, Flip.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Well, be sure to subscribe and like and
hit that bell.
All righty. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will catch you next week at the same, maybe 8 o'clock next week. We'll see.
Now I'm trying to find my all right. Now we're going to go.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Check you later.